Good afternoon, everyone who's joining us here in the conference room in Bangkok, and also more than hundreds of us that joining online. I'm Isorasak, Thesratanavong, the host for today. And just to remind everyone before the event that this event is being recorded, and we will also take photograph of the event. Welcome everyone to the first ever dive-in event that organized in Thailand. This event cannot be possible to be happen without the passionate support from our local sponsor, DLA Pipers, March, Prudential, and AIG. Today, we have quite organized the two sessions. This is the first session that we're going to run in English, and the next session that's going to start at 3 p.m. going to run in Thai. This year's the theme for the dive-in event is braver culture. We are opening up a conversation on how to build a workspace that allows people to feel psychologically safe, valued, respected, and free to express themselves. So today we have a panel that going to come and talk to you in various respects of the open communication and how we're going to structure the communication to allow the psychological safe in workspace. So not only the panelists that being with me on the stage today, I also have my co-host that joining in online. So right now, I would like to taste and hand over this to Robert. I think, Robert, are you online? Can you hear me?
Hi, Isorasak. Good day and good hello to everybody. Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. I hope you guys can hear me.
Yep, so right now, hand over to you, Robert, to introduce the panelists.
Great, fantastic. Well, thank you very much. It's an honor for me to co-moderate this session with you today, Isorasak. The session is going to be on about how we build effective communication in the workplace. We've got in here from a Thai culture perspective, but from my pre-discussions with the panelists, you'll see that these topics and these issues that we're going to explore today, I think really does transcend borders. So if I can just start this session now with a brief introduction of Isorasak and then of myself, and then I'll go into the panelists. So we have my co-moderator today, Isorasak Thesratanavong. He's the director and CEO of AIG Thailand. He has more than 18 years of experience working in the insurance industry. And he has had several CEO positions across the industry. And his expertise and deep relationships in Thailand position AIG to deliver innovation and sustainable growth opportunities to clients and partners. And myself, I am a partner in the DLA Piper's Thailand office in the litigation and regulatory group. I have over 14 years of experience in this area, and I am also the head of the insurance claims and reinsurance claims practice in Thailand. I'm also the proud Thailand lead for DLA Piper's Leadership Alliance for Women, which is a global gender balance network as well. And my distinguished panelists today. So I will start by talking about those individuals in the room, okay? So we have Derek Heng from Marsh. Derek is the CEO of Marsh Thailand, having relocated to Bangkok initially as a chief integration officer in 2019. Since his promotion and succession to CEO, Derek is one of the youngest CEOs ever in the Marsh McLennan Group International, something I'm sure you're very proud of. And Derek's focus for Marsh Thailand is to evolve the local insurance broker sector, placing emphasis on delivering quality, advisory services, and insurance placement solutions. Next, then I have Jacqueline Chua, next to him, or Jackie as we call her. Jackie is the head of auto and personal property at AIG Thailand, and she has over 25 years of experience in the insurance industry. She's worked in various roles spanning underwriting, business development, marketing. She's also worked in lots of different places too, Hong Kong, Zurich, Singapore, and now Bangkok. And Jacqueline's aim is to bring AIG Thailand's auto and personal property business to the next level using modernization and market segmentation to promote profitable growth. And then next to Jackie, we have Mr. Danai Wangpachat. Danai is the Director and CFO of AIG Thailand. Danai grew up in the States and he only moved back to Thailand about 3.5 years ago. But he has over 20 years of experience in the insurance industry. And throughout his career, Danai has been involved in strategic transformation and change initiatives across many parts of the organization, including operations, IT, direct marketing, and finance. As I just mentioned a little bit, he's also worked in North America, Europe, and Japan as well. Then I'll move on to the online panelists, the guys that are joining with me here. Let's start with Tomi Latva-Kiskola. Tomi is the President and CEO of AIG Hong Kong. He was also the CEO of AIG in Thailand in his previous role as well. And he has over 21 years of experience in the insurance and financial services sector, spanning Asia, the US, and Europe. And prior to joining AIG, Tomi was a management consultant advising and working for insurance, financial services, energy, and pharmaceutical businesses, advising them on all aspects of their business, from strategy to development to due diligence, risk management, and operations transformation. And certainly, last but not least, I have my co-partner or fellow partner, Warren Vanichprapa. Warren is an international banking lawyer and the co-country managing partner of DLA Piper in Thailand. Warren has substantial experience in advising financial institutions and multinational corporations on complex financing and restructuring transactions, financial regulatory matters, bankruptcy, commercial law issues. And Warren is a strong and proud advocate for the LGBTQ+ community for over 15 years, and is the first openly gay co-country managing partner for any international law firm in Thailand. So welcome to all of my panelists. Okay, so let's get stuck into it. What are we exploring today? Well, as we mentioned before, the topic is how to build effective communication in the workplace from a Thai perspective. And you may wonder, why are we talking about this today? And why is it such an issue? Well, from my perspective, I feel we are experiencing a unique intersection of history where technology, demographic changes, globalization, cultural changes have made our workplace more diverse than it has ever been. The globalization, industry consolidation, and the internet have made it possible for us to work with colleagues and clients from around the world more frequently. And that's been boosted by the mass adoption of online collaboration tools like Zoom and Teams during the pandemic, and as you are all seeing being played out right now. And there's also the changing attitudes to working outside of the office as well, and I think that's having an effect on collaboration, particularly when it comes to remote working or hybrid working. And certainly, our workplace is becoming more and more generationally diverse as well than it has ever been. You've got baby boomers, Gen X, millennials, Gen Z, all working closely and collaborating together. And so how we are going to put all of that together is then having some questions to our panelists, just covering 4 main topics, exploring some of the issues that we face in the industry and some of the solutions that each of their organizations have come up with. So the 4 issues that we'll be talking about, well, the first one is focusing on cultural differences in the workplace, either between themselves or their colleagues. And then we'll move on to exploring generational differences in the workplace and how our panelists make the most of those generational diverse workplaces to foster collaboration. And then we talk about general good practices and communication in the workplace, and that includes challenges and some of the solutions to good communications. And then we focus on communications in the workplace of the future. We look forwards. And then we discuss some of the challenges which can inhibit collaboration in the workplace, how to ensure that our colleagues are collaborating effectively in hybrid and remote working schemes. So without further ado, let's get started with the first topic. And that's all about challenges in the workplace, or cultural challenges, that is. So maybe I throw this question to you, Tomi. Hi. You all right?
Hey, Robert, great to see you.
Hey. So the first area that we're going to be talking about, Tomi, will be, share with us some of your experiences with those cultural differences between, foreigners and the locals. And feel free to talk about not just your Thai experience, but also your Hong Kong experience, and maybe juxtapose that a little bit for us and how you've dealt with those issues and, what does it look like now?
Well, thank you, Robert. Thank you, Kun Isorasak, as well. Thanks to our partners. This is a fantastic session and a great part of this year's diving festival. Culture for me is massively important. I'm from Finland originally, married to an American, living in Hong Kong, so I find myself in a cultural conundrum almost at all times. So for me, this is fascinating. I'm thrilled to be talking about Thailand, the country where I've actually spent the most time outside of my own home country, and one that I hold very dear. The Thai culture is fascinating, and all the good things about the culture are true indeed. The smiles, the warmth, the respect, the curiosity, the innovation, the fun. That's all very true. But for me, I think I find the culture deeply complex as well. And having spent more than 5 years there, I felt at times that the more I knew about the Thai culture, the less I knew. As I peeled some of those layers off, I started to understand it a little bit better, but I needed to understand it a bit more again and again. Some of this is obviously not written by any means. One of the things I picked up very early on, luckily, is this concept of Greng Jai. My Thai friends will appreciate it. For my foreign friends, it is this concept of really being respectful, considerate, not to impose any unnecessary favor or obligation to others, essentially not to trouble others, but also preserve harmony and sort of a happy and a cohesive state. As I think about that, as I sort of look at your question, Robert, I think about it more as a foreign leader in Thailand. Now, obviously, for many of us on this in this session, you may think of it the other way as well. How would you approach a foreign leader like me if you're in Thailand? Greng Jai, definitely key part of the culture. The other aspect is this deep respect for seniority, both in terms of hierarchy of an organization. So if you're a country manager like Kun Isorasak or me, you're at the top of that hierarchy, and respect for age as well. And sometimes though, those go hand in hand and sometimes they don't. And a good example of the conflict in this is that I had a great executive assistant, relatively junior in the organization, but she was one of the most tenured in the organization. And I could see how some of the Thais actually struggled to approach her with relatively mundane tasks because she was so much older than they. So that, I didn't understand it at first, but later on I did start to develop a better understanding of how to handle that. Greng Jai and this respect for seniority, I think for me also meant that me coming in from Scandinavia, democratic, consensus-driven leader, I often find myself posing questions to the team. What do you think is the problem? What do you think is the opportunity? What do you think we should do? And often that didn't go down so well, particularly at the beginning. And of course, that is really mainly driven by the fact that I'm the boss. I'm sitting at the top of the hierarchy. Aren't I supposed to know? I was there leading the team for the first time. I didn't know. So what I needed to do is get past that notion of seniority includes expertise and in my case, particularly market knowledge. And how I started unpacking that was really in many different ways. One is, quickly I established one-on-one relationships with people that I trust, both internally, but also I had good mentors externally as well. What do you think? What do you think is the problem? What do you think is going on here? And these one-on-one conversations, particularly internally, enabled my colleagues to open up in a much safer space than they would feel to be in, let's say, in a management team meeting or something like that. Mentoring, I often use mentoring also as an opportunity for reverse mentoring as well. And I'll probably get to that later in this conversation, but I also challenge my mentees to challenge me, and I did the same thing in Thailand as well. Here's what we are thinking. How does it sound or look from your perspective, a more junior employee or an employee in a particular department? And I think once I had these conversations, then the direction is much easier to set. And I will say the Thai team were excellent in then taking that challenge of develop a product, remediate a line of business, grow a business, or whatever it might be. But getting there needed this trust, the safe space. In many ways, me opening up as well, showing some of my vulnerabilities. And that way build the trust more in one-on-one. Key opinion leaders, I think, is the last one I would add to this. There are many of those in any good Thai group. So how do you get to those key opinion leaders as well and use them the best way possible?
Great. And to Warren, what do you think about this concept of Greng Jai and having that respect for seniority and hierarchy from your perspective as a Thai, dealing with foreigners or non-Thai people in your role?
I think I echo what Tomi was saying earlier. I think Greng Jai exists in Thailand, and it exists because it's part of the Thai society in the sense that there's one person, he's a British doctor who was living in Thailand for 30 years. He wrote this very good book. And one of the things said in the book was that in Thailand, everyone is higher and lower than everyone else everywhere, in every part of our society, in family, in the country, in the army, in the political party, in the parliament, including in the workplace. And I think that represents a lot of truth. And that truth has a lot to do with our ability to communicate. Thai people being Greng Jai, in a way, it also comes from this concept where no one is ever equal to anyone. Everyone is either lower or higher than everyone else in the same company, in the same family, depending on their age, their background, their wealth, their beauty. And how do we tackle that? I think as a Thai person, I'm born and raised in Thailand. I spent in total about 6-7 years working in the UK, Hong Kong, Singapore. I did a bit of work for a few months in other European countries. And I have been reporting to Thai and non-Thai, and Thai and non-Thai reporting to me. I think, how do we break that? I guess it's not breaking this cultural issue. It's how to work with this Greng Jai or the Thai culture, where people fundamentally believe that these unspoken rules that you're not supposed to cross. Personally, I find that if you're in a more superior position, either because of your age or your position in the company, it's also part of your job to actually not just encourage other people to speak, but you have to lead by the example of being a person who listens well and also encourage others around you to listen well. And by listening well, you allow others to speak and to communicate better. And that's how you work well with Greng Jai.
Great. Seems to me, though, you both work for international organizations. How does your organization's culture fit into these principles and these ideas of working with the local Thai culture? Let me throw that at Tomi first to start off with.
I think, I must give kudos to the Thais actually at this point. AIG, obviously an American business, has been in Thailand for 81 years. I think they've done a fantastic job understanding and adapting to an American corporate culture, actually. So much of our effectiveness is actually kudos to them and the way they welcomed me as a foreigner, but also the whole company. I think what's important, and Warren made a really good point there. One is listening. The other is creating the forums for listening. And the forums can be informal. They can be one-on-one. They can be mentorship, like I mentioned, reverse mentorship. They can be more formal group engagements. We, for example, run on our technology side, cross-country, what we call hackathons. So really diverse groups of people get together. We pose a problem for them or a potential opportunity and have them think about how do they go out and how do they go after it. We have a panel of judges for it, and we review and award the ideas that come out of that. that in itself is an example of a safe space where you can really propose something quite innovative, quite drastic from your day-to-day in ways that you'll not be judged. You're not doing it alone, you're doing it as part of a group. And the whole point is to come up with something that's gonna revolutionize the way we do things. So for me, listening, like Warren said, leading from the front, being the first one to listen and encourage that speak up, and then creating the forums, the safe forums, informal and formal, where people can speak either alone or as a part of a group.
Yeah, Tomi, I think...
What do you think about that, Warren, from your perspective?
I completely agree. I think in our organization, Robert, as you know, DA Piper, I wouldn't necessarily say we're perfect, but I truly, truly believe that we're on the right path in the sense that our core values are diversity and inclusion and well-being, and that core value being repeated all the time, not just amongst the management, not just amongst the partners, but at all levels. So we have created, from that values, we created different platforms to listen to people through different channels. And repeating the same values and the same messages, we allow people to be able to communicate better, to express themselves better because they feel safe. And in a way, we also need to always focus on the fact that people are different. When we have our value as diversity and inclusion, it's not about encouraging people to necessarily speak more, because some people are always going to be shy, and we have to include those people who are introvert, who are shy within our organization, in our community. So we just have to create and work around our platform in order to allow safe space and the space that people feel comfortable to express themselves if they want to. And I think these are the values that we should always stick to it. We're not perfect, we're still working towards it, but as long as the values are being repeated, and whenever we might not necessarily do the right thing, as long as we have the values right, we can always come back to see whether we are moving towards the right path.
Can I just bring in Danai actually in here as well, because I know that Danai has got lots of different perspective, having worked from different offices. Danai, what do you make about from your perspective, having grown up in the States and having to come back to Thailand after so many years? What do you see are some of the challenges when it comes to these cultural differences?
Yeah, I think Tomi and Warren have touched on a lot of the themes that the challenges that I've had. When I first came to Thailand, I had the opportunity to partake in a training about Thai culture. And of course, taking a training is a lot different than experience in the workplace. But there have been a few things that I learned in the training, coupled with my experience in the workplace, that have really stuck with me. So in particular, there are three things. One, as Tomi mentioned, Thais tend to work better in teams rather than as individuals. Two, there's sort of a sense of risk aversity. So like in Western cultures, you often see individuals wanting to take on more responsibility because they want to establish a reputation, they want to have deliverables. But you don't see that as much in Thai culture, because with more responsibility comes more risk. You might make a mistake, you might fail. In say, a meeting setting where there's discussions, Westerners are encouraged to be more outspoken, express their opinions with the intention of collaborative synergies and coming up with the best idea as a team. Whereas in Thailand, we were talking about Kadeng Chai, that's also feeding into the behavior and the culture in Thailand, where there's not as much idea exchange. But it's also related, I think, to the risk aversity, where if I give an idea, it might be perceived as wrong. People may not agree with it. So, they tend to be more tacit in these kinds of discussions. And the third thing that I remember is that Thai people really like food and travel. So if you want to motivate them, then reward them with food and or travel. And this really all came together. I mean, this is what I learned in the training, and it was, it was interesting, but it didn't really hit me until in the workplace one day. I always come into a role, when I come into a new role, I try to find ways to make things better. And about 1 or 2 months after I came to Thailand, I wanted to engage my team in coming up with ideas for process improvement. How can we make ourselves more efficient? How can we deliver higher quality deliverables through having better processes? And so I was speaking with my finance leadership team, explaining to them what I wanted to do, and I said, let's have a brainstorming session. And everyone in the room said, no, that's not going to work. No one's going to give you an idea. I was like, okay, what should we do? And they said, let's have a game. Let's have a contest. The reward will be a food coupon. Let's set up some teams and explain the background, the goals of the contest. And I said, okay, let's try it. And it was very successful. After the contest, we had about 40 ideas. So my team is about 20 people, so that's about 2 ideas per person. But it wasn't just the contest that generated the ideas. After we gave away the food, the team still came up with ideas after that because they had already started thinking about it. And so our list of 40 grew to 80. And so it really established this mindset that we wanted to establish in the team of how can we constantly improve things. So I think I'm grateful to my leadership team for guiding me in that situation, because I certainly think that doing that was more successful than my original idea of just doing a brainstorming session.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing it with us tonight. Certainly from my experience anyway in Thailand, yes, you're absolutely right, Thai people, even I enjoy food and certainly free food as well, so I wouldn't be surprised that you got such great responses to your idea. At this point, let me hand over the mic to Isorasak, sitting in the room there, and let him explore the generational differences and the generational diversity in the workplace.
Yeah, thank you, Robert. And coming back to the floor here, I just would like to add one comment to actually what Tanai just said earlier. I think the food and also the games is actually underlying the concept of adding fun into the workplace. I think majority of the Thai, I think going back into our history, I think we're not the serious guy that going to come to the work and trying to work seriously from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. But I think along the line, we need to add the fun moment into that. So that is just only one of the tactics that getting the engagement. And also one of my manager who are the foreigners and also used to live in Thailand for many years is talking about Grain Chai. I think everyone have Grain Chai in Thailand until Thai is jumping on the car and hit the road, so the Grain Chai is going away. So if you would like to experience that coming to Bangkok and seeing the road in Bangkok. Anyway, let's segue to the second question, and I would like to add in more complexities to the culture differences. So the differences is not just only the language or the culture, but in today's workspace, we end up, and for the first time, that we have so many generations working together, starting with baby boomer, Gen X, Gen Y, and right now, Gen Z or Gen Z is already start their working as a junior in the company. So that is an exceptional times in the history of working together. So the question is, what ideas that do different generations bring to the table? Definitely, different generations have different thoughts, different ideas. How do they augment each other in the workplace, and how, as the management, manage that? So I direct the question to you first, Direct.
Sure. I think to add to Kun Danai's just now, if you add alcohol, I think probably you get even more ideas in Thailand context, not just food. I think the love for alcohol probably oversees food in that extent. But back to Kun Isarasak's question around managing the different generations. I think first time ever really we have many different generations working in one single organization. Even for ourselves, right? Right now, I think about 50% of Marsh's population, it's either millennial or Gen Z, which is a huge population. It's not just us within the insurance industry that is facing this. It's also clients, right? Because clients are also having new generation people taking up leadership position, taking up decision-making position. And the fact is that things change very quickly in our lifetime now. I think the speed of change is a lot faster, and it's essential that we have the new generation colleagues to keep reinventing ourselves, revitalizing ourselves, bringing in new ideas, and so on and so forth. I think, interestingly, even though just now, we spoke a lot about Kwanjai, the impedance to speak up and all of this. But if you actually talk to a younger generation Thai right now, I think the willingness to speak up is a lot more as compared to older generation Thai. Just coincidentally, yesterday, I had a session with my MGDPs. So we run a grad program within Marsh where we hire fresh from school. And I had 8 young and bright colleagues who were not afraid to talk about how they feel about the program, what it's in the future for them, what they feel is lacking, and how we can reinvent ourselves towards the Thai market. So, in fact, I think with the generational changes, the behavior changes as well. And the willingness to speak up and the approach of Thai culture is also rapidly changing because, frankly, right now the accessibility to more open culture via Netflix, via YouTube, via Twitter, via TikToks these days, it's a lot different from what it is as compared to the past. And back to the point of how we actually do that, it's really creating a safe space. I think just now Tomi and as well as Waranon also mentioned about the importance of having a safe space for people to be willing to participate. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to voice your thought. It's okay to, even sometimes look stupid by saying certain things. It's perfectly fine if the environment is safe. Nobody go and say that, why do you give a stupid idea, right? As long as that safe environment is created, in fact, I think the new generational ideas would come in actually much faster, boosted by alcohol probably. So, and that really can help to see changes with the organization. And look at, for ourselves right now, for Marsh, our traditional business has always been finding insurance broking solutions for our clients. But right now, really, a lot of things are at the forefront of our clients' thoughts, including things like climate change, sustainability, inflation, and all of these topics, which is not traditional insurance topics. And these are important things that we have to constantly be engaged with our clients, the new generation, and new ideas for us to not just be one step ahead of our clients, but 2-3 steps ahead of our client in their risk management conversation.
Thank you. That's very interesting. And I think the composition in each of the organization going to be different. I think the new startup or the companies just like Marsh in Thailand, we may have more composition of the younger generation. And probably the younger generation can dominate the discussion in the office, and definitely those who are in the older generation must adapt themselves as well. Anyway, Jackie, what do you think about the differences and how each of the generation is bringing it to the table?
Yeah, I think it's important that we bear in mind that actually, there are differences, but actually we are actually very similar. Why do I say that? as a Gen X, I think I'm Gen X, not baby boomer, I'm a Gen X. So I think we bring to the table our experience. We have 30 years of experience in the insurance industry. Yeah, we are old. But the young who are joining us, the millennials, they are very tech savvy. All right, we know our 5-year-old friend's child is able to swipe the iPad. So I had the opportunity to bring my son, who is 18. In fact, last year to the organization, not in AIG, but a previous organization, and he is 17, and he joined as an intern for about 2 months. And it's very interesting to see that we are the same, as in some of the beliefs, the culture is the same. We have respect. We believe in honesty. We believe in integrity. I think these things are the same. All right. What is different is that they are tech savvy. We have experience. My son is able to do a PowerPoint in 10 minutes, whilst I would have taken 2 hours. Okay, to do the same effect. So there is a difference there which we need to recognize and which we need to respect. And I think there is a lot to learn from them and they from us. So I think, that's the key point I want to make.
I just want to add a little bit on what Jackie said just now, right? It's not just about the speed of what they're getting done right now. I think I'm a millennial, but if you go for millennial in the past, we used to watch YouTube videos that are 4, 5, 8 minutes. Now kids watch TikToks that are 30 seconds.
Correct.
They are so used to things being fast, short, sweet, and that translates into their working attitude sometimes. Because we will be thinking, sorry for my language, but bloody hell, we take 10 years to get to where we are, 20 years to get to where we are. But the younger generation are no longer that patient sometimes. They expect things to happen quickly, a lot faster because of the way that they are brought up.
Correct.
Unfortunately.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's right. Not sure, Tomi, I think you experience also in Thailand organization and now to Hong Kong. What do you see any difference between what you experience here and over there in terms of the generation differences?
I think Jackie brought up a lot of good points there. I think one way to say the same thing, I think, is maybe us older generation. We tend to look at, for example, our work, the way we do business, very much as a process. What are the things different parts of the organization or the value chain need to do in order to get something done? When we talk to some of our colleagues, millennials, Generation Z, they're very much looking at these things from an idea standpoint. So if we look at a new thing to do, they are simply, sort of throwing ideas in the air. They don't get constrained by their experience, which in this case could be the lack thereof, of the challenges of getting it done. So I think that sort of open-mindedness has really been helpful for us in that, and both in Thailand and in Hong Kong, in that we are getting the fresh ideas. But what we then need to do is we take those ideas and we collectively again with the Generation X and baby boomers and others, then again look at the idea and go, well, how do we now execute that? And that's, I think, where the experience of the Generation X comes into play. We now agree on the idea. It's a great one. It's a novel one. It's a new, exciting one. But here's what we know we need in order to get there. And I think that brings the healthy balance. What I think for me as a leader, what I need to do is not to let someone like me and other older generation get in the way of the idea generation. Don't kill it, too soon. But then later on, bring that healthy, but open-minded kind of view at those ideas. And then if we take a fresh idea, execute it with the best we have, I think that's the best combination and an example of how we can bring the new and the old together.
I think to add to Tommy's point, I mean, to bring the ideas to the table as well, maybe we also need to change, or open the spectrum of communication, because I realized today that I can get a response by text or WhatsApp, much more than I can face-to-face. So, when I'm talking to someone who is younger, right, face-to-face, I don't get that much input, right? But when I'm texting the person or WhatsApping the person, it's coming really fast, So I think maybe that's something we need to keep in mind as, senior leaders as well.
Yeah, I think maybe to Robert, actually, right now when Jackie has already brought up the concept of new technologies that right now we are in the millennials, in 2020s, and also we have new technologies coming into play. We have text, we have videos, comparing to the older generations where the only way to communicate in office is through email, through town hall, or sometimes the message board. So right now, many tools has been changed. So I may ask Robert that I may jump on to the topics about the communication of the workspace using the new technologies. So coming back to the nine, I think right now we are in the hybrid and using the technologies, right? So what do you see that the challenge and how we're going to adapt using this technology to boost up the better communication in the office?
Well, before we talk about the issues and the challenges, I think at AIG in particular, we've already done a lot to prepare for hybrid because, as you know, at AIG, we made the decision over a year ago that even after the pandemic, we would come back to the office, but only on a part-time basis. We would have a hybrid structure permanently, basically. And because we made that decision a while ago, we've had a lot of time to basically reinvent our facilities. So a couple of things in particular. Now, we literally just finished the renovation this past month. So this literally just started this month. We have what we call phone booths. Now there's no phones, even though they're called phone booths. But they're these little rooms that can hold one person, basically, with a desk, a LAN socket and an electrical socket. And the purpose is for anyone who has an online meeting to do a meeting. Because now that we are in this sort of hybrid environment, there's a lot more online meetings. And so if everyone's doing an online meeting at their desk, it can become distracting. So that's one change that we've made, which I think has been very successful. Another change was just revealed this week. We now have a Teams meeting room. And that doesn't mean a meeting room online in Teams. That means a physical meeting room specifically for Teams. And we used it for the first time this Monday. And personally, I was blown away by the new look and feel of the meeting room. It has a very large screen at the front. Because when you're doing a Teams meeting, sometimes you share your screen. And so part of the screen is used for the screen sharing, and then the other part of the screen is for the video, so you can see everyone who's participating online as well. But the audio was also, it blew me away. I felt like I was in a surround sound movie theater, because when someone spoke online, it was surround sound. And not only that, even the microphone, I still don't know where it is, because when you speak, everyone here, you could tell everyone could hear you. So it's not like, conference calls in the past where you had something sitting on the table and you had to say, oh, can you give me the mic? Oh, I can't hear. Can you turn up the speaker? Because everything's crystal clear. And that helps with the efficiency of the meeting.
Yeah, I think that is one good thing where the technology is coming into play while we have to continue working from home. So I think in almost every meeting, we're going to have the people sit in the meetings and also some people that sit at home. So with the technology that enabler or allowing both who sit at home and also sit in office have more interaction and also didn't have any gap in the communication. Direct, I also heard that March is also turning to the new office concept and also just like going for work from home. So what do you think about this?
I think for us, we have a brand called Flex at Marsh. So Flex at Marsh right now, it's fundamental to how we work. right, where we embrace flexible working. There are two things that we do, obviously. One is to break down the physical barriers. So right now, I don't have a room. I sit with everybody, right? Somebody who is 2 days old into the organization could be just sitting next to me if he's unlucky. Pick the table that I do not know that I will usually sit there. But that's what happens, right? So you break the physical barrier so that you actually encourage communication. Because I think gone are the days where CEO sits in a room and then, people, yes, you might have open door policy, but people, still take a lot of courage to go up to the door, knock the door and ask, are you available when you may be talking? But, you could be walking to the toilet and so on and so forth. That's one thing. Actually, looking back, when I joined Thailand, I came in the thick of COVID. People might say that I brought COVID along with me into Thailand, but basically, essentially, after I reached for 3 months and COVID hit. The key about hybrid working, I feel it's also creating the availability to communicate. Because if sometimes, I could be somewhere, we are working from home, out of sight, out of mind, it's a very real thing. But creating that feeling of you are available for a conversation easily, even though you might not be physically around, was something that I actually quite cautiously make when I first joined the organization. Especially, when I came, I went back and I got stuck in Singapore and I couldn't be in Thailand, right, physically. So that feeling is actually quite important to really allow the flow of the conversation. And that's one of the key things, obviously. However, right now we are, I think as of next week, right, 1st of October, the country is going into a very different phase right now. We're going into more or less, without calling it an endemic phase of the pandemic situation. Really, the next challenge is a lot of, organization leaders face is bringing people back. Now, you have 2 years of Zoom calls, Teams calls, these and that, looking at screen. Now the difficulty is you have not seen some of your colleagues for 2 years. And how are you going to bring them back? Once again, I think it starts a little bit with the physical environment, which is to make the office as welcoming as possible. You make it an environment where people want to come to office to work, want to come to office for a conversation, want to come to office because things move faster, the energy is better, they can see their leaders. And for us, we have been actively, bringing back a lot of social activity within the office. We have beer Fridays sometimes, which helps. So, and we give out ice creams for some days for people who don't drink alcohol. We have blind masseuse coming in as part of CSR as well, to create an environment where people actually want to come back. And I also actually talk to my team leaders to make sure that, at a certain point they have in-person meetings so that to keep that collaboration. Because at the end of the day, we are a people business. Zoom calls, yes, you can bridge a lot of gaps, like what we are doing with Tomi and Waranon right now, right? Even though we might not be physically together. But at the end of the day, we are still a people business where we still need some physical interaction. To encourage, cross-pollination, synergies, all of these buzzwords. But it's quite basic, frankly speaking.
Yeah, I personally found that after we coming back to office, I have less meeting. Because the reason is that when we have a little bit of things that we would like to speak with one colleague, when you're sitting at home, you have to schedule meetings. But in office, you can just walk past and meet at the water coolers, and we can meet at the hallways, and we can get things done with a few minutes of discussion. So I truly find myself that I spend less time in the meetings and more time seeing each other in the office. I'm not quite sure whether, Warren, do you find the new technologies, the new ways of communicating have changed, and is there any other challenges that you found? So to you, Warren.
Completely. as a DOA Piper partner, I mean, DOA Piper has launched this policy officially, which takes effect already for the past few months, is that people, as long as they are able to deliver the same quality and the quantity of work, they are allowed to work from home up to 50%. And it's 50% of their choices. So they could come to work this week, 5 days, and next week, they could just work from home for 5 days. And that's not being said lightly. DOA actually follows this policy and enforces it. So I think personally, the past 2 years has been wonderful personally in many ways because I have this ability to work from anywhere in Thailand. I spent 40 days because I got COVID in Switzerland after going there for ski. The trip was meant to be a week. I was in Switzerland for 40 days. It was quite expensive. Apart from that, it was fantastic. I think the challenges that I find, apart from all the positive sides of people being able to work or spend time at home more with their family more, I think the challenges for me is for new joiners to be part of the organization, in particular the junior members of the team or the new graduates who never actually work anywhere else, and suddenly their very, very first jobs, they spend a lot of time at home. As the technical side, I have some doubt whether it would be exactly the same. The ability to learn the technical side of people starting their very first job, working from home and working hybrid and working full-time in the office. But I think the teamwork mentality, it is a challenge in particular for new joiner and the very junior member of the team. If you come in, not all the time, and when you come in, you may not necessarily come in on the same days as your team, your senior, or your managers, your line managers, for example. And I find that something that needs to be addressed in each team, in each organization, in particular, when you have a clear policy that, like, yes, guys, you can work from home a bit more, it's a bit more flexible. We need to also share the understanding that you also want the junior to move up, for them to have to feel inclusive. And it's hard to be inclusive when you don't see a lot of people in your team. Therefore, we work around, if you don't want to come to the office 5 days a week, maybe at least 2 days a week, and not the whole day. We come in, say, Monday afternoon and Thursday morning, where everybody can see each other, or we eat out more together, we have coffee more. There was at one point in time, I think I had 8 cups of coffee in one day. Lucky me that I could sleep that night. You have to work around it because there's so many benefits for people working from home on hybrid, but you have to work around it because at the end of the day, we also people business. We believe in teamwork, so we have to ensure that working hybrid does not stop people from feeling included, and you have to create all these platform or functions or however you call them to make people feel connected, and you keep changing the platform or the functions if you feel that, well, this way doesn't work. You may ask people to join for breakfast, for dinner, and talk about something else other than work, because as long as work, people can do Zoom call, MS Team, that's absolutely fine. But you still have to make them feel included as a member of a society. And a workplace is a very strong society, which is very important for all of us. So working around this platform has been, I wouldn't necessarily say it's a challenge, but it's been something that we need to keep figuring out what's best. And if we have new people, and we have new people all the time, we create new platform to cater the team that keep changing. Maybe we meet the team for breakfast. Maybe we go out doing a team building together. It doesn't have to be a big trip, a couple of days trip, but we could spend half a day working together in a different environment to allow people to get to know each other more.
Yeah. And I think online events that we learned to do during the pandemic. We had, at AIG, we had online events maybe monthly or at least I think it was monthly. Simple things like fitness classes online, dance classes online. My team, we played games sometimes online. Those still have a place in the hybrid work environment because we're not in the office all at the same time. So, certainly with us all starting to go back to the office and not having met each other in person for a long time, the emphasis now is, well, how do we get these in-person events up and running again? But I think that these online events still have a place in our work environment going forward.
Yep, I think right now we'll still be in work in progress, and I'm sure that the working environment with the new technologies, with the new working arrangement going to be adapt and evolve going into the future. So I think that's now a good segue to go back to you, Robert, to talk about the good practices in communication, and especially how we're going to build a culture of the open and frank communication.
Sure. So before I get into that, Isorasak, I wanted just to make a very quick public service announcement. Please feel free for audience members to put in your questions and comments and observations on all the topics we've been talking about throughout the discussion, and we will get to those towards the end of the session. In the comment box if you're online, or raise your hand, and Isorasak will hopefully pick it up in the room at the appropriate time. So I just, before we moved on, I was just one observation that I wanted to share, and just to get maybe Tomi's views on this. I mean, we've talked a lot about, just now, we've spoken a lot about, the as you put it earlier, the thought ideas, or the ideas generation, right? And so we'd be focusing a lot about, getting them involved and how we can, bring their ideas to the front. And, one aspect of that, which I just came to my mind, was, well, how about the more senior generation? The people that weren't particularly familiar with technology 3 years ago, and it was thrust upon them because of the pandemic and other things. So, how would you get those people involved in these discussions, and how to get them to become effective communicators in this kind of new world?
Robert, great point. And I think, we tend to, when we talk about generations, we tend to focus on the younger ones, think of younger ones as new joiners, and very much the focus is on them. We must not forget that half the population in our companies are still Generation X or older, and we depend on them heavily for the years to come still. And I think when talking about the safe workspace, we must make sure that we don't discriminate on age, young or old, and we indeed, to your point, create a safe working space for people of all ages. There are stereotypes. Us old people are being seen, inflexible, reluctant to change. We tend to have less academic skills and maybe more work experience and so on. But for example, the pandemic showed how quickly everyone can change and adapt when we communicate the change, the reasons for it, and the approach to it the right way. In Hong Kong, for example, before the end of 2019, less than half of our workforce had laptops. So what was very common is that even underwriters from a broker meeting, they would return to the office and then complete the submission. In the new world, if the broker meeting is near them, they will stay at home for the morning, go to the meeting, and possibly go back home after the meeting, rather than have to anchor them to the office every day. But immediately as the pandemic started, we rolled out laptops to everyone. Obviously, the system set is the same. It's just now on a different hardware. Very quickly, though, people of all ages embraced work from home. We saw no changes in productivity. We saw no changes in staff turnover, for instance, and we felt everyone was engaging and contributing when we offered the chances through various virtual means. I think it's important to be open, honest. If there's a need for it, I'm not sure if there is, but use their language, whether that would be any different than than Generation Z. I'm not sure, but I think if we articulate the change, the need for it, what does it mean for them? What does it mean for the business, the customers, the brokers, and other stakeholders? There is no resistance to change, for instance, based on age. I can tell you that from experience. But I think your point is extremely important in that in our focus on new hires, in our focus on generations, we should focus on all ages, not just the young ones.
Yeah, great. And let me ask Jackie this as well. You've been working in lots of different countries, and what are your experiences about trying to engage, Jackie, both the younger generations and the more older generations when it comes to collaboration in the workplace?
Is that for me? Okay. What are the challenges of a generation? I mean, like I mentioned earlier, right? We come to the table. I mean, the Gen X come to the table with our knowledge of policy wordings, clauses, and all the things which are very technical, while the young, the millennials, or my son, for example, will come to the table with creativity, ideas. And how do we bridge the gap? I think is to keep the style open, the communication open, and to accept each and everyone's ideas. And the styles must be collaborative. It's gone are the days where I say go and you say how high, right? I think that's over for now. And I'll bring the one example that when I first joined Thailand, I was in a very big meeting, and the discussion was about do we invest in an app? All right, and the senior management are the baby boomers and the Gen X, and they said no, because I don't use an app, right? I will use the phone. So I posed a question to the other side of the table, the young business analyst, right? I said, what about you, right? Will you use an app? And the answer was obviously yes, right? So how do we bridge the gap between the two thoughts? And I think what is important is, again, like I said, collaborative style. It has to be open. Everybody is able to share their ideas. And as senior management, we need to be able to accept as well.
And I just want to add a little bit to what Jackie said, right? I think Thai culture, or rather Asian culture in general, and in Thailand especially, we are generally very conflict averse.
True.
We don't like conflict. We don't like confrontation. We don't like face-to-face. I tell you what are some of the issues I have with you, especially here in Thailand. However, one of the ways that we resolve certain of these problems is through conflicts, is through confrontation, right? But how to make sure that it is a constructive conflict and a constructive confrontation, it's very important. And I think that seats with leadership. Leadership not just at top level, but leadership down to the most junior of team leaders. That it's okay to have a conflict. It's okay to face talk about what you see the issue is. But you draw a line when it becomes personal, and meaning you focus on the issue at hand, you focus on the problem, you focus on resolving and how to make customer experience better. And you avoid things and statements such as, your generation, you don't understand. Once you say that, I think the conversation stops because you shut it down. Or the other side will be like, you young people, you don't even understand the policy, how it works. Again, the conversation stops. But if you focus on, oh, look, how are we trying to get this better? And focus on the issue and the outcome, I think, and encourage that constructive conflict, I think it's actually very important.
Yeah,
Agree.
I think there's also a need to recognize that there's more than one solution. In Jackie's example, the older generation had done things a certain way until now, which is fine. And the younger generation had also done things in a certain way, which was different. And just recognizing the fact that there's not just one answer helps avoid the conflict.
That's spot on. I'll just add, I mean, Derek put it well. I think it really is about what is the real issue. What are we trying to solve here? So Jackie mentioned an example of using a phone or an app. That's not the issue or the problem we are trying to solve. The problem we are trying to solve is how quickly and how efficiently can we engage with one another or with the customer or someone else. And the answer could be both by phone and via an app. So I think it's important we also define the problem we're trying to solve. And I'll just summarize. Listen, again, I think all generations will have views. I think we need to listen, and I think we need to listen actively and respond to that as well.
Fantastic. I just wanted to make one final point before I hand back over to Isorasak to wrap up the panel discussion. And this is in terms of how your culture, your company culture plays a part in fostering this effective communication in the workplace. Let me just quickly bounce that off to Warren first and to speak from his perspective.
I think as Robert, as I pointed out earlier, I think within DLA Piper, I think we really truly believe and keep talking about diversity and inclusion and well-being. And from these two core values, we have other policies in place where by making people feel included, we create safe spaces, we revisit our policies, we look at our competitors or our colleagues in the same industry, we look at our clients, we look at the values, and we keep adapting as long as they make us closer to our policies of well-being and diversity and inclusion. And this is reflected by allowing people to feel safe at the workplace, to be able to communicate more freely through various different channels and through various different people within the organization, because we also need to appreciate that not everyone would be able to speak up quite well. There are always people who would still be shy, who would still be introvert. And either that's their upbringing or that's just who they are. And we have to keep our workplace and our communication structure work for them as well. Obviously, it's easier if you are extrovert. It's easier if you're not a shy person, but we can't forget that people are not the same. And by encouraging people to speak up more, we should do it, but we can't forget that not everybody would be able to do that.
Great, thank you for that, Warren. I'm just conscious of the time. I don't think I'll be able to summarize it any better than that for the moment. So why don't I hand over back to Isorasak and you can wrap up the discussion.
Yeah, thank you very much, Robert. And I think right now it is time for the Q&A. Not sure for those who are in the conference room today, does anyone have any questions? And also, not sure if from online, is there anyone posing the questions? So I believe that we have the question coming up over here. Just one. The next question, I think. Okay, there is a question submitting in right now that much has been said about fostering communication. However, what role do setting boundary play in facilitating better communication, either between generation across border or just normally in everyday communication? I think early on, Derek, you just mentioned that it's right now down to the manager, and actually not just only manager, but the one who runs the meeting, or even it is between one-on-one meetings. So how do you address this about facilitating the communication?
I think, like I said, right, sometimes when there is issue, you just need to make sure that it doesn't go personal. I think very often what happens is, I mean, let's face it, in every office there is office politics. In every office there will be personnel issues. There will be who like who don't like who works with who better, and so on and so forth. But the important thing is really resolving the matter at hand. And I think that it's something that it's a tone that has to be set very clearly by the facilitator. Of course, sometimes being a big organization, we also work across many different countries, right? You put a Thai with an Indian colleague, oh, it's different. You have one party that talks, one party that don't talk. And, or you have a Chinese with a Thai colleague or with a Farang in their essence. So the facilitator would have to be very mindful about subtle cultural differences, especially in a cross-border collaboration, and to just bear that in mind and give time and space for people who might not be as articulate or might not be as vocal. Because more often than not, we listen to the party that is more vocal. I mean, it's just human being. But I think as leaders and as a facilitator, we have to keep reminding ourselves that we have to hear the thoughts of those people who may not be as vocal. And these people could be the different generation. Because remember, slightly older generation Thai, maybe, they are taught not to speak up. But if you talk to them one-on-one, they got a lot to offer, But in a group setting, no, don't talk. Nothing, zero. Any question? Nothing. Always the same, right? So I think we just have to bear in mind that and to be able to fish out the ideas out of them so that we don't get steered too much in one direction by the more vocal party. That's something that we have to keep in mind.
Listening to you, I think facilitating that's going to be the new skill that's going to be really important in the future. I think in the past, if we're talking about my generation, the communication skill that we are focusing on is presenting, which is one-way communication. And later on, I think we develop our own listening skill. However, right now in the hybrid world, in the world that we have so many generations working together, in the world that we have to bridge different culture, I think facilitating the communication, either it is in the group communication, facilitate how we can draw up the ideas, how can we draw out the thoughts from someone that may sit at the corner. So I think that could be one of the new skills for the future. Anyone would like to add to this question, Jackie or Danai?
I mean, I think at the end of the day, we don't really need to set boundaries to facilitate better communications, but everyone needs to be reminded and need to know that the key word is respect. I mean, respect what the other person is thinking, respect their culture, the young, the older, and I think that is the key.
Yes, respect is important. Yep.
Isorasak, I would add to your point about the skills of communicating. I think you're absolutely right in that. Certainly, us Generation X, we were taught, even professionally, presentation skills. Does your presentation say what you're going to say? Then you say it, and then in the end, you said what you just said, and you say it clearly, and you look at the audience in the eyes and everything else. I think what's changing now is I think the content of the message is changing. I think what's increasingly obvious is how do you tell your story? How do you get your message across as a story that will get you where you need to get? You may be asking for resources, you may be asking for an increased commission, you may be asking for more limits on a line, whatever that might be. Certainly internally in AIG, it is about resources, it is about investment, and it is about positioning the country, the business, the product, the channel the right way for that investment decision. And I think one of the things we've done, both actually in Thailand and here in Hong Kong, is look at how do we give some formal training to our staff on communication skills, and how do we continue to develop those, either for everyone or for those who we think need it, and those who actually just want to volunteer for that. And increasingly, the common theme is indeed storytelling, rather than effective presentation skills or whatever that might be. And we've had some great successes both in Thailand and here in Hong Kong on that. Certainly an improvement area for me personally as well, but one to think about.
Yeah, thank you, Tomi, and also thank you, the panelists, to this question. Actually, I have one person sitting in this seminar would like to pose the question. So, gentlemen, please.
From DLA Piper. Thank you to everyone for your insights. I'm from one of the generations that is a bit more bold and outspoken, and so we typically come with newer ideas that are a bit against the grain. And so I wanted to ask, what is the best way of conveying these new ideas and challenging the norms that are already established within these big organizations, but in a way that is helpful for you all as senior leaders, and how we can best move this towards effective progress?
Mm-hmm. Anyone? I think both online and also on the stage. I think I may start. If it is just for me, you can just speak it up, either in the meetings or either in the one-on-one with your manager, with your senior management. I think just speak it out, and I think that is. But again, it depends on the organization culture and whether or not it is open to accept and challenge as it status quo. But I think right now, just for me, just speak it up. Others?
Yeah, it definitely depends on the organizational culture. I think just sort of reading into your question a little bit, I'm guessing that you're having challenges, or you feel like you will have challenges with communicating certain ideas. I think in that sort of situation, the best thing is to find someone you know well, who's a little bit more senior, who who will listen and will communicate your idea on your behalf.
I think from and just to add on to Kun Danai's point, float your idea and bounce your idea a little bit. Because what you are worried about is probably your idea being not well received, right? And that's where having that relationship with slightly more senior people, it's very helpful in organizations, because ideas could be old and it may not have worked in the past, but ideas can work now because things are slightly different. You bring back that idea, have they thought about this? Float your idea a little bit through different few channels and just get direct feedback immediately. Once you feel that your idea is more baked and it's ready, then just speak up, right? I think most organizations would be quite willing to. But you will be sitting there, I have this idea, but I do not know whether. But, get that, bring somebody out for a coffee, schedule a lunch with, a nice mentor within the organization and float something and see what's the reaction, right? So that you get a little bit of that immediate feedback within, a few trusted parties within the organization. And another good thing that come out of it is when your idea gets floated up, there would be some proponents of your idea already, and makes it easier to be accepted by then, because it will not be totally, from the left wing or from the right wing, something that comes out, because there'll be somebody like, oh yeah, so-and-so did mention it to me the last time, and I thought that it was a good idea. Right? And it will help a great amount in any senior organization, I would say.
Yeah, not sure if online panelists have anything to add on to this question.
I would just go back to my most recent point, the storytelling. What is the story that you're telling with this idea? And link that problem that you're solving to whoever is that you're pitching to, and is that problem or opportunity aligned with their problem or opportunity? I think it's important that what you're pitching is solving something, that it's solving something for someone else as well, who's actually going to make the decision on that. So I would check for the story, I check for the problem, I check for the alignment. But I couldn't agree more with Derek. Getting feedback early on, buying support along the way, highly valuable.
Hello? Okay. Thank you so much for the panelists answering this question. I think we believe that we have 5 minutes to answer one more question. So, Robert, do we have any questions that's coming in online?
I've just got one question left, which is an interesting question, but I suppose it kind of makes sense for the insurance industry people here on the panel, given you forecasting and modeling things like that. Let me ask this to Tomi. What do you hope to see in 5 years' time in your workplace when it comes to communication?
Well, I think in 5 years' time, the golden rule will still be golden. Treat others the way you expect to be treated. I think we will continue to have a increasingly diverse workplace. We'll have different cultures, we'll have different ages, we'll continue to drive the right gender mix, ethnicity and other minorities in there. Technology will have evolved from here to 2027, 28. And I look to us to see how we can take best advantage of that diverse workforce, empower them with the tools we can offer. But most importantly, I think the consistency in the messaging, the openness, transparency, and the two-way communication will continue to be critical. Two-way is for feedback, it's for ideas, it's for reaffirmation, and I think that two-way communication will continue to challenge us, much the way we've talked about throughout this session. Leaders will be increasingly responsible for listening and for responding and reacting, but also our diverse workforce will continue to be challenged to come forward with ideas, with thoughts, and with suggestions. So I think it's going to be higher volume, different technologies, ultimately same principles, be respectful, treat others the way you expect to be treated.
Others over here?
Fantastic.
Nothing to add here, Robert.
That's. I'll hand back over to you, Isorasak, to wrap it up. There's no further questions on the online chat.
I think we don't have any more questions now, and I believe it's going to back to you for the wrap up of the event.
Oh, good stuff. That's all quite all right. All right. Look, thank you so much for all the panelists for sharing their insight. It's been an absolutely fantastic session, and what I've been able to pick up just from listening to all of the commentary and all of the points and observations is like from Tomi, for example, this concept, the local concept of greng jai and having respect for the senior authority can inhibit communication in the workplace, particularly in Thailand. But there are ways around it, and having one-on-one meetings or picking up what Denai was saying about making sure that you have a fun environment and allowing those individuals to speak up in that environment, make them feel comfortable to do so. And then we heard from Derek, talking about, well, the speed of change is carrying up very fast, and we need new ideas. We need the new generation colleagues to bring in these fresh ideas to kind of shake up the old guard, so to speak. And it's actually refreshing to be able to do that. But contrast that point, Tomi also made a good suggestion, but you mustn't forget those individuals, because they still are around in the organizations, and so you have to have a more holistic approach when it comes to fostering an effective communication in the workplace. And then we had Warren talking about, well, it's very important to also listen. It sounds very simple, but it does make a big difference. And being able to really understand the issues on communication in the workplace and some of the ideas that people want to bring to the fore can also be very important. And moving on to Jackie, she made a very good point about how yes, there may be cultural and generational gaps and differences amongst our colleagues, but we're all the same, and we all want to be heard, and we all want to be able to have a safe environment to be able to communicate effectively and well with each other. And so then we moved on to talking about some of the ideas in terms of how technology can help the workplace. And Danai shared what AIG has been doing in that field in terms of putting up a Teams meeting room and having hackathons, again, to encourage people to collaborate with each other. And then finally, we wrapped it up with Tomi just a few moments ago about what he was hoping to achieve, and having an open and a collegiate and workspace, and having an environment where communication is free flowing, and that all generations and all genders and diversities are respected and then listened and heard. So with that, I'll hand back over to Isorasak to wrap up the session. But thank you again very much from me, all of the panelists, for sharing your ideas and your solutions with us. And yeah, back to you, Isorasak.
Thank you very much.
In case you have anything else you'd like to add.
Yeah, thank you very much, Robert. And I think we are coming to the end of the first session today. We have lots of ideas, and I believe that all of those that's sitting in the seminar room today, and also those who are online, you will get a sense of the differences in the Thai culture and how we're going to adapt that. Last but not the least, before we end the session, this first ever session of the Dine-In event would not happen without the support from the volunteers from each of our sponsor company that getting together as working groups, stepping behind and set it up everything that we saw today. So a big thank for the working team and the volunteers for this event as well. So thank you very much. I would like to end the first session, and the next session will begin at 3 p.m. Bangkok time. It is going to be the Thai session. Thank you very much. Please stay tuned. Thank you.